Your show is scheduled to start in 2 minutes, 37 seconds. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please hold and you'll be able to listen to the show. You are now in the host queue.
Hi, Christian. It's your favorite buddy, Jonathan. How are you doing?
What's up, man? Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm about to rage it up on Donald Trump because of his idiocy, man. I'm about to go Hulk smash.
You're gonna go hardcore, huh?
Yeah, man. And
Alright, well, we'll get you in as soon as we can, okay?
Alright.
Okay.
Alright.
Like, we actually talked about this 2 weeks ago when we had a great guest, Liz, who wrote this viral outpost piece about Donald Trump, and it was probably like around June 22nd, 23rd, whatever. You know, it was one of those things that it was pre the craziness, right? Yeah. Where we kind of get shown going, all right, you know, Donald Trump's being Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. But then it just went ballistic. Everything went ballistic the last week and a half, Charisse. And the moment I take vacation, it just felt I was crazy. So what we're going to try to do tonight is talk about this in a way that speaks to what happened, but also question, concern. I mean, it's just been nuts. You've been following, right? It's just been crazy. Yeah. With this crazy. There's so many. I can't even. It's just I can't keep up. It's flooded my feed on all my social media accounts, and it's good and bad. Yeah. I want to kind of get a little bit meta and a little bit more philosophical. And our first guest we're bringing on, Charisse, is Felix Sanchez, who is the head of the National Hispanic Foundation of the Arts. And before I bring on, you know, he's on this line, but I just want to introduce him because about a week and a half ago, he was sort of the straw, the key voice in getting this letter by the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda up and running. It represents about 39 Latino organizations, and they were demanding that NBC get rid of Trump, and that was done illegally. Thursday, not this Thursday, the previous Thursday, and by Monday of this week, it was all a done deal. So Felix Sanchez, welcome to Latino Rebels Radio with Charisse Delgadillo and Julio Ricardo Varela. How are you?
Thank you, guys. Glad to be back with you.
It's always a pleasure to have you. So here we are. It is less than a week, right, since you made a couple of appearances, you wrote a couple of pieces for CNN. It's less than a week since NBC made the major announcement. Now all the politicians are weighing in. What's your brain telling you as of tonight, Felix? Because it's one of those things that I just haven't had any time to process this. And I want to know, what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, I think it's good to recap. And, when Donald Trump made this statement during his announcement to run for the presidential nomination for the Republican Party, I was absolutely outraged and livid, and I think that is what started to happen on social media. And I think that it was, I don't think that the Facebook algorithm, picked up on it or had it trending as a topic. When you're only 2% of Facebook, what are you going to expect? That they're going to really understand what is really happening at a grassroots level. And that it was not just within the United States, but outside of the United States. And so this groundswell was occurring, and really the first ones to sort of react to it was Univision. And Univision came out and said, we're withdrawing because of his comments, and it was kind of like a shock, like, what, for those things that he said? One of the examples that I've given is that, if Donald Trump had called a woman the B word, everybody would have jumped on him for an inappropriate comment. But call a Mexican a rapist, and it's like, he's just a clown. Forget him. Don't pay attention to him. And that was, it was like, no, I'm sorry. There's got to be zero tolerance for, to any bashing, to any Latino bashing going forward. And that was kind of, once Univision laid down its cards, we had to push for NBC Universal to do the same. And they were hoping that they could just pivot, that they could release a statement and say, we don't agree with the comments, and, but we're still going to be partners with them and keep going. And the groundswell started to happen. There was a young man, Guillermo Castañeda, who had put together a petition on change.org, and within 3 days they had 200,000 signatures. And then there was another petition on another website, and that had 700,000 signatures, related to Macy's. And so it was just like a domino. So, you had Univision, and then came NBC, and then came Televisa and Carlos Slim, and and this was, and mind you, at the early onset, I must say I have to give a lot of credit to the talent that stuck their neck out, and nobody, when it was not easy to stick your neck out, and that was Jay Balvin and Rosalind Sanchez and Cristian de la Fuente, and then you had Maná and Juanes and Shakira, coming out, and really they were instrumental in bringing this awareness out there. But it's still not just into the United States, but outside of its borders, and all through Central America and South America. I mean, in fact, President Maduro of Venezuela condemned Trump and sided with with everyone else complaining about what had happened. So it was I termed it the Latino Spring, and it was really a groundswell, galvanizing moment that captured everyone's attention that was of Hispanic origin, and we've never seen this happen before, and I think that it took people by surprise because they had never thought that you had to defend, Latinos. I mean, it was like it's one thing to defend, now we look at the LGBT community and you can't say one word that is not going to come back to haunt you or to be criticized or to be immediately, reprimanded. The same thing for women. You can't say one sexist, comment, all as it should be. But to do that for the Latino community, that had never happened. And then the criticism came with the candidates, because at that point, most of them had said nothing on the issue. And if they did say something, they had said a very, soft criticism of Trump. And that included, Secretary Clinton, who didn't even acknowledge him by his, first name. I mean, by calling, this is the comment that Trump made. It was sort of, she alluded to these comments. And Bernie Sanders, to my knowledge, has not said anything so far. But now we've seen in the last days, even Bush getting more, Jeb Bush getting more aggressive about his comments and showing more passion. And I think that it took this groundswell to bring us to where we are.
Right. So we're talking about Felix Sanchez, who's the chair of the National Hispanic Foundation for the Arts, who is one of the sort of the key organizational voices that got sort of the reaction by NBC to basically sever ties with Trump this past Monday. And before I turn to Sharice, Felix, you talk about a Latino Spring, and you wrote this piece for CNN, and I'll be honest with you, I thought it was one of those terms that it was probably giving too much credit since Trump is kind of low-hanging fruit. So I'm of the school where this was in terms of the groundswell.
So much to do.
It happening and seeing it happen was pretty monumental. But there seems to be so much other issues that affect the Latino community that would merit sort of a Latino Spring. Do you think organizations such as yours and other organizations and celebrities who were talking about Maná would start taking on other issues that affect the Latino community?
Well, again, this is the beginning of a movement. I think a beginning of a coalition that crosses borders. And I think that, it could take on other topics, but the principal issue here, and the principal issue that I work on, is really about portrayal and representation. And so when it comes to the way people look at us and think about us and the way they act towards us, that is completely within the area that we have talked to the television, film, and news industry about how stereotypes really keep us in a box. And this is an example of what was happening here. And while there are so many other major issues that impact us, I don't believe that this is something that will necessarily, garner the same kind of a response. I think that what this had to do with was about self-respect, about standing up for ourselves, about this was so much
From the people who brought you the Baconator, these Wendy's Baconator fries, just $1.99. Freshly cooked applewood smoked bacon joins forces with melted cheddar to take fries to another dimension. This summer, Baconator fries at a Wendy's near you.
And then you have to start somewhere. And this unifying idea is the starting point. And then hopefully, bringing it to bear on other topics, that would be ideal. But I think that never before has this group, that really didn't know each other, from one end of the, from New York to Texas, that was one kind of concept. And then, thinking about Central America, Mexico, Central America, and South America all coming on board on this issue. I think that was really a first and really something that hopefully will grow from there.
Hi, Felix. So, this obviously caused a unifying effect. This was directed, his comments were directed specifically towards Mexico coming through the border, and you see a lot of the diaspora of the United States coming together as immigrants, the majority of the immigrant population coming into the United States, uniting them. Is this also, do you think, benefiting Trump in the presidential race, considering that he's actually number 2 on the poll, and it almost kind of seems that this is giving him more attention from, the far right and conservatives that are anti-immigrant?
Yeah, you see, here's the thing that's very tricky about this dynamic, is that we pull the rug out from them. Instead of them letting us, falling on our sword, we pull the rug out from them and we call the question, can you allow this language to go forward? Do you agree with this language? And that's where they have the problem. Now, he may be searching in the polls, but as, he's really, it impacts Iowa and New Hampshire, which are almost 99% white, and who this message, this anti-immigrant message, resonates with them. But Donald Trump has basically, I think he has damned the Republican brand. And I don't know, I was thinking at for a while there that they might be able to turn it around. I think that there has been so much continuous, sort of discussion about this, and then you replay what he said over and over. I mean, I probably listened to it at least 30 times. And I think that people that are listening to it are so infuriated over it, and it's not just Democratic Latinos, it's Republican and Democratic Latinos as well. And they're out of their mind that he said this. They're out of their mind that there was a slow response from the Republican candidates, the Republican contenders for the nomination. And there has been this we shifted this discussion that while there's a short-term win right now for him, the long-term is really that the brand is suffering, and that I think it's like having a Latino primary right now, and we've all voted it down. It's like none of these candidates are worthy of our vote. And I think that history is going to write this, and they're going to say that Donald Trump sunk the ship before it even got off the ground.
Now, since you go ahead, Julio.
No, go ahead, Sheree.
When UNBC fired Trump, he countersued with a $500 million lawsuit. Is that something that's happening with NBC?
He has not sued them yet, although his lawyer this morning said that they were going to take action. Now, this $500 million suit is really just puffery. That is never going to go to trial. And if anything, there's some discussion that, there may have been already substantial performance on the contract that Univision didn't have to do anything more. And if they do reach go to court, but they have an arbitration clause in there that they will be resolved, and somebody will write a check. It will be much smaller, and I think that Univision wins on the public relations front because they were the first major corporation to stand behind Latinos, and that begged the question for everybody else as to what they had to do. I mean, again, NBC, which has Telemundo, owns Telemundo, they realized that if they ever wanted to compete against Univision, that they then had to also follow suit. They were trying as hard as they could not to, but it became very apparent that they could not continue in the same way. And it's been this acknowledgement, I mean, from NASCAR to Serta mattresses, every, golf tournament, Ricky Martin pulled his foundation's golf tournament from a Trump course in Puerto Rico. I mean, it was this incredible moment in which we were awash with support, which frankly, we have never had, had any level of support like this. And I think that people felt that while he was talking about immigrants crossing, many individuals feel that, they were only one or two generations from, coming to the United States. And it really felt as if he was really impugning the integrity of most Mexican Americans, and then by extension to anyone who is Latino.
Right. So, just a couple more questions. Again, we're talking about Felix Sanchez, chair of the National Hispanic Foundation for the Arts. Sort of a post-Trump analysis. We appreciate your time, Dave. So, one of the things, that when you see the organizations, and I know you can't speak to everyone on the agenda, but this is a purely, once you start mixing this with politics, and we talk about entertainment and all stars that are doing things that they might have not have been political in the past, although, someone else believe them. And I know, there's some people who have. But you talk about what's going to happen next. Because one of the things that what truly shocked me about this was the swiftness about something that has been, it's Donald Trump being Donald Trump. And it seemed like to be the break. So you talked a little bit about, this is just getting started. How then in politics, I'm still stuck about, what do you do next? I'm still stuck about policies, how do Latino voters, how does this become something that gets translated to the presidential election? And especially when you're dealing with some organizations that might not have been involved in politics in the past. But it seems like you guys are kind of changing the rules.
Yeah, I think that, I think that it's a game changer. And where we are is they don't know how to get out of it. It's like, how do we bring it down? How do we get out of it? And no one has the answer because Trump refuses to apologize. And in fact, he's made matters worse by, the interview that he did with Don Lemon on CNN, in which he used information that Fusion had on its website, completely got the facts wrong. And so he was talking about, all of these people that were getting raped, and it was like, well, they're not getting raped by, this is about women getting raped coming to the United States, and the roads that they have to travel, which is so difficult, and the problems that occur along that road. And of course, his reaction was, well, who's doing the raping, and it just inflames the situation, and it just shows the idiocy of how his mind and the logic works. Now, I think that where the problem is occurring, and I saw it today on the Sunday morning talk shows, is that Republicans are really in denial about what's happening. And they're basically saying there's no problem to the Republican, the RNC brand, because most people don't associate Donald Trump with being Republican. Well, I'm sorry, he's running for president of the United States and to be the Republican nominee. So there is definitely an association, and if you gets to the debate, and because of where he is in the polls, and the way they're going to only limit the debate to on the Republican side to 10 candidates, Trump will be there, and if he continues to express these outrageous comments, it's going to be difficult for the other candidates, the other contenders, because they don't want to offend that base. Because they recognize that there is a Republican base that actually absolutely believes in what Trump says. I mean, he would not be number 2 in Iowa and New Hampshire if it wasn't for the fact that his message resonates with people there, and that anti-immigrant speech is real. And all of a sudden, Latinos who were probably not going to be paying attention like the rest of America to the primary system until January have a definite opinion, and it is just becoming, they've seeded this, and it's going to be very hard to take this out of anybody's mind. And whatever, hope that the Republicans had of being able to turn around and get more of a Latino vote in the presidential, is becoming a diminishing, it's diminishing rapidly.
So again, where does this go next for you guys? I mean, now you said it's a game changer, and it feels like it's almost like you created. And I think you said it as well. You said, because he hasn't apologized. I mean, this is now.
As I talked about, the Latino Spring, it's like an awakening, and now everybody is awake to this hate speech. Everybody knows where it's coming from. Everyone knows the context of the Republican race, and it is creating deep-seated animosity that is not going to change when some crisis communicator comes in and tries to fix it. And so, where everybody was trying to tiptoe around this issue and not even have to address it. I mean, we saw that Cruz, endorsed that speech, that Rubio basically, sort of said no to it, but again, I think it was just in a statement. And then Jeb Bush had to come around the second time, 2 weeks later, to be more forceful in his comments, even though Jeb Bush's wife is Mexican and his children are Mexican American. And so,
we had a tweet that he deleted, that someone at Rob Helbrin, this is from Donald Trump's Twitter account, so at Rob Helbrin tweeted to real Donald Trump that Jeb Bush has to like the Mexican people because of his wife. That was the tweet that Donald Trump retweeted, the profile of Donald Trump tweeted last night, and it was deleted from his account. So it does seem I don't think this is going to go away.
No, it's not going to go away, but it is also what I think is hard to understand is that this has been all over Spanish language TV. Telemundo and Univision, this is like the #1 story that if you think that they're covering it expansively on English language TV and, radio, it is out of control on the Spanish language media. And add to it that this, again, is happening throughout Latin America. For example, we know that Miss Mexico, Miss Costa Rica, and Miss Panama were not going to compete in the Miss Universe. They have withdrawn. But then the current Miss Universe, so Miss Colombia, made comments in which she criticized what Donald said, but she is under contract and has to appear on the show. And he said today, she called her, a hypocrite for having criticized him but kept the crown. Well, if she'd given the crown, he would have sued her too. But the level of pettiness, when you're the women that in these pageants that have now become, social activist heroines, we've never seen anything like this again. And every day it doesn't go away. And the longer the story plays out, the worse it is for the Republican brand and for anyone the ultimate candidate of the Republican Party. And so when you say where does it go, it's just going, to hell in a handbasket. That's where it's going.
I think that's a really good soundbite. Yeah. I really appreciate your time. Please keep us posted about anything that you
I will.
Thank you.
Hispanic leadership agenda.
Thank you, brother.
Frank Sanchez, chair of the National Hispanic Foundation for the Arts, trying to give us a little bit more insight about what's happened in NBC for the guys with Donald Trump. Muchas gracias, Steven. We'll talk to you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Therese, yeah? We could probably talk about this topic for the next hour. I mean, my Twitter feed is Latino Rebel Twitter feed. I just want to read a couple of tweets before we bring on Frank Contreras, who's actually a correspondent for CCTV based in Mexico, and not a lot of people in the United States are talking about how the Trump thing is playing in Mexico, so we really want to spend an hour on that. But before that, I just want to get a couple of things because everyone is like, my dear friend Adriana Maestra, giving her a shout out. She sent me like 6 questions to deal with while I was talking to her, and I tried to answer one or two. But I think one of the questions that Adriana brings up, and we've had her on before, and maybe we should bring Adriana on next week or two because she's amazing, but also because she knows the politics. But the question is talking about policy and whether a lot of these organizations that spoke out against Donald Trump are going to now be a little bit more forceful when it comes to policies that, for example, we spent a lot of time talking about the Obama administration's immigration policy, all things that were happening about that, and how some Democrats, aren't really that into the Latino community in a lot of ways. I mean, they're not using words like racist, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to put you know what I'm trying to say. I hope say it. Say it. You know what I mean? Saying that it's really great. It's like low hanging fruit. Donald Trump is low hanging fruit, and is this going to lead to more sustainable movements that go beyond a Republican candidate's choice of words? That to me is the big nut. I wanted to get your thoughts on that before we brought on our next guest.
Well, personally, when I heard the speech come out, I really took it. It was incredibly inflammatory remarks. I saw my mother's reaction. She immigrated from Mexico. She was completely offended, especially because she grew up, thinking of the American dream and being rich. And there's this guy Donald Trump, and he's just kind of like an icon of, So in a way, it was. I already knew his politics. He had rebuilt himself throughout the years, but it's kind of disappointing when you kind of think of him as like the figurehead of like the American dream, and making it big and making money. So I think for people like from my mother's generation, it was just like it was such a slap in the face, when people come to the country to really make it. On the other hand, I just really thought of him as a clown. I thought that this was a stunt. That like he himself being, he himself probably didn't even take that speech seriously. Didn't even seem well prepared. And on top of that, he actually went on and on and on and on about China. With his focus on Latin America was, it wasn't proportionate to how much he went on and on and on talking about how horrible dealing with China is. And so it almost seemed, like a joke. So, and when I came back on Monday, just seeing this explosion on the internet, it just kind of makes me wonder right now if, this is going to, affect the Latino vote to think that, the GOP is evil because Donald Trump is associated with it. Therefore, we're all going to, everyone's going to vote Democrat because that's a safety blanket without really thoroughly analyzing what each candidate is really going to do for the Latino population. There's so many. There's going to be like a reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many angles. It's like, I guess I've become desensitized to a lot because I've been learning the second language for so long and we've been writing about it, talking about it.
Yeah.
And,
it's great though. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. But I think the point about your mom is that to me is a very, very, very valid point in this whole conversation. And again, we're going to get Franklin Ferguson in a second. But it kind of, even Lalo Alcaraz, it's kind of personal to people, and it kind of deals with people in a way like they never before. And it's almost like when we formed this page in this community about 5 years ago, we were kind of talking about these issues, and no one was really listening. Like, so here, all of a sudden, a lot of things that we were talking about, at least on how Latinos are portrayed, and sort of these sort of rhetorical labels that are used to misrepresent the community, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Venezuelans, Latinos, everybody. Like, it just exploded. And in my mind, it's in so many other issues that I'm kind of like, I look at Dr. Nini's tweet and like, let's talk about this universe and sexism. And I'm like, yes, let's. But we have 25 minutes and we have a guest calling in from Mexico. But I just want to, there's so many issues to this, and it's almost like, I feel like we could spend 4 or 5 episodes just off of this. Not focus on Trump, but focus on the issues that came out of it, right? So that it's not just, that's where my mind is right now, that's my creative craziness. But before we bring in Frank Contreras, who's going to give us sort of the international perspective, sort of the Mexico perspective, I have to put in a clip from the state laborer who responded to Donald Trump. Because I think this is what you mean by the personal, Charisse. Here's this man who decided to share his views on Donald Trump, and I'm sure he, I don't know if he has a Twitter account. I don't know if he's like, oh, let's sign online petitions. But wow, like, you hear this and you're like, okay, this really resonates. Anyway, we're gonna play the clip. It's in Spanish. You're just gonna have to listen to it to figure it out. It's really raw and really honest. Hola, una entrevista aquí con el muchacho para él. Ese güey, Donald Trump, así para que chingar madre que dice que somos unos rateros. Hijo de la chingada, ¿cómo andamos rolando? ¿Cómo nos estamos partiendo la madre que se está para tragar? Ahora, otra cosa. ¿Cuál es que broma? Van a ganar $1,100. El gobierno me quita 350 para de tragar. Tu bola de desempleados, drogadictos, güeyes. Acá los muchachos, partiéndose la madre en el solazo. ¿A cómo estamos de caliente? Estamos a 107 grados, párense. Ya está un poco menos, estábamos a 115. Ya nos ponen muchachos allá. Miren nomás cómo están. Aquí narcos también en China. ¿Cuáles violadores y criminales? ¿Cuál es la droga que usan? La droga que usan es esta, la droga, hijo, el que chingada madre. Esta es la droga y con esto es lo que me enferma, cabrón. It's about David where he's saying, hard work for what you eat, Donald Trump can basically, and there were so many other images. There was an image of a young woman who graduated this week, and there's a picture of her hugging her dad who couldn't go to the graduation. She had to work. Exactly. So it's something that really resonates, and I guess the hope from all this, from this perspective, is if you can get people to get riled up, the Latino community get riled up against Donald Trump. Well, I got another 12 other issues that I think would be a greater impact to the community than whether we're selling clothes and Macy's or not, or whether we're not running this universe. I guess that's just me.
Well, I mean, I think the whole premise is that it's a sense that, especially that he's referring to Latino males as especially sexual predators. But in general, I get what you're saying, but it's just, at the same time, it's what does it say about our power right now in the United States? I get what you're saying. It is low hanging fruit. It is saying something about our growing power that these corporations, and not just Latino diaspora, but you have to Macy's and NBC, that they're fearful of our lack of consumption because everyone's so offended by what Trump said.
Right. I guess I just incredibly valid point. I totally get it. And I'm bringing on Franklin Torres in the next 30 seconds. But did you see Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
It's been a long time. I think it was 4 days.
Okay, but you remember the girl who wants I want more? I think I need that power, right? That power needs to come outside of sort of what companies think about. If this could get generated, then imagine what real power really is. And so that's sort of the point that I was trying to make. And I see a video that went viral. That got 16 million views on Facebook. 16 million views in 2 days. And there's something funny of what you just played out. Yes, 16 million. Anyway, okay, I know he's calling from Mexico. We really apologize. This is what happens on Latino Rebels Radio when we're live. We get into these points, but Franklin Pereira, correspondent in Mexico, we're really happy to have you. You're here with Julito and Charis. Un placer. How are you?
Thank you. I'm glad to be with all of you guys. It's a real pleasure to be on Latino Rebels Radio here, live from Mexico.
We're going international, Charis.
I know. You're great.
As of this moment, you are international. Yes.
We are international. So, listen, Frank, we don't want to spend a lot of time sort of feeding you questions. We're about 20 minutes left, and we really want you to just kind of dive into the issues that are happening with this story in Mexico. I think, well, why don't you start there? I have one question after this when it comes to, clothing lines that get canceled and dropped on DCs, and is that affecting Mexican workers who are making those clothes? But maybe that's sort of like a corollary after this, but can you put us up to speed to how this story has played out in Mexico, the story that you've been covering?
I would say, Christian, in a nutshell, Mexico has basically hit Donald Trump where it hurts him the most. And that's, of course, in his pocketbook, right? I mean, this is a billionaire we're talking about, one of the 400 top richest people in the world at this moment. And so Mexico's reaction has largely been an economic one. We're seeing giant media companies, for example, you mentioned Televisa. This is the world's largest Spanish language broadcaster based here in the Mexican capital and broadcasting globally all sorts of things, soap operas, telenovelas and things, right? And of course, Televisa pulled back and said it will not broadcast any Miss Universe pageants that Trump owns and will back off of that. That's going to cost him millions, tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues in the Spanish language markets because usually, in fact, recent winners have been from Latin America. So you're going to see one of the biggest broadcasters in the region, in the world's largest Spanish-speaking nation, by the way, Mexico, not carrying that broadcast. So that was one. There were a number of other things that took place. Even things like a craft beer brewery owned by some Costa Rican people, a brewery called Five Rabbit Cerveceria. They're no longer going to be selling their beers in the Trump Tower restaurant in Chicago. And so I think what we're starting to see really is a widespread economic reaction to this really what appeared to be very racist statements coming from somebody who could be the main candidate for the Republican Party in the presidential election in the United States. So in the years that I've been covering this country, so we're talking about almost 20 years now, I have never seen such a strong reaction from Mexico when it comes to domestic politics. I think that that's really the essence of the story from here, this transnational nature of the reaction and a very clearly economic reaction from Mexico. Now, it's important to remember that Mexico is one of the most important trading partners that the United States has. Mexico buys more U.S. products than any other nation in the world except for Canada. But imagine that. Imagine what kind of trade is taking place day daily over the United States-Mexico border, that place where Mr. Trump says rapists are coming in through. So I think that, when he starts to offend people on this side of the border, what I see as unprecedented is this clear decision to go after his pocketbook.
So, hi, Carlos. This is Sheree, the co-host. So, I have a couple questions. Frank. Oh, sorry, Frank. Frank. Sorry. Frank, I'm sorry. So, my question is that was the reaction from Carlos Slim, who is a businessman and one of the richest men in the world, was. What about, has there been any kind of political consequences because of this? Has the president of Mexico spoken out about this?
Allow me to correct it just a little bit there. That reaction that I was talking about is not Carlos Slim. That's separate from Carlos Slim. We're talking about the largest Spanish language broadcaster in the world, Televisa. Yeah, that was their reaction. Now, as you point out, correctly so, Ora TV, O-R-A TV, which by the way produces shows like Larry King Now, that company is owned by Carlos Slim. And as you point out, he is also boycotting Mr. Trump on television. So Carlos Slim, as you guys all know, is a Mexican, and he is the second, often categorized as the second most wealthy person living right now. And probably we could say in the history of humanity in that case, in that sense. So you're already starting to get strong reaction, not just from the major broadcasters, but also upcoming broadcasters that are producing content from Latin America and across Latin America. So just that point. As far as the political reaction, we did hear a very clear denunciation from Mexico's Interior Minister, Osorio Chung. He says that Mexico simply does not accept this kind of language coming from this candidate, and that it's simply offensive. So the Interior Minister, who by the way is the most powerful member of the president's cabinet in Mexico, came out very quickly and denounced the language that Donald Trump was using, calling Mexicans rapists and criminals and slamming Mexican immigrants in the United States. So that was a very clear message. We have not heard anything from the Mexican president himself, Enrique Peña Nieto, but a message from his Interior Minister is a pretty strong indication that the president here also agrees that this was just way out of bounds.
Well, it's interesting considering everything that's been happening in Mexico lately as well, especially when you have incidences like what's happening in Ayotzinapa and a resurgence of repression there. So I'm just, if the president said anything, it would just come out to be somewhat skeptical, considering how they're handling their own domestic affairs shooting citizens.
I think you're right. I think a lot of Mexicans would agree with your analysis on that because, as you know, they question their own government's role in the situation. For example, the disappearance of those 43 students from Guerrero State, Ayotzinapa, a story you guys have been covering so much on Latino Rebels. And so, people aren't exactly waiting on the edge of their seats to hear what the Mexican president says. But I guess what it really says to me is that the Mexican government and business leaders are stepping out on this one. And in the 20 years that I have, 20 years covering politics between Mexico and the United States, that's the first time I've seen that happen. There have been federal governments in Mexico that when the United States is going after immigrants and doing immigrant bashing and deporting record numbers of people, those governments stayed absolutely silent and never said a single word about the kinds of situations that Mexican citizens in the United States were being forced to face. We had so many citizens that, for example, were deported to the border state of Tamaulipas. That's where major drug violence and criminal violence is taking place. People are let go to go walking over a bridge into the dark and into these locations that are absolutely unsafe. And this is the United States government pushing people out of the country to this kind of dangerous situation. And Mexican federal government stayed absolutely silent on this. So we start to see this reaction from a member of the cabinet and then of course from these big business organizations, and even of course Mexico's own Miss USA, she made suggestions that Lupita Jones, that I would say that makes this moment very different than what we have seen in the past.
Right, and we're talking with Frankie Travis, who's a correspondent for CCTV, and he's talking to us live from Mexico City, talking even at sort of the sense of his take on what the Donald Trump issue is being discussed in Mexico. One of the things that we wrote about and think about right before NBC got rid of him was sort of the number of Mexicans that actually come into this country to, what you said, to do business or to spend money, or and then you add it to the fact that there's a large Mexican American population in the United States. I think one of the things that people, and I think you kind of bring this up when you talked at the beginning, Frank, is the amount of trade. How many people from Mexico actually come to the United States to do business or to spend money or to visit the country. And we're talking, I think the last figure I saw is like 14-15 million a year. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of people. And why do you think that narrative or that topic doesn't get discussed in U.S. media? And it's pretty standard statistics, right? It's pretty standard data that you pick up at the DHS any day. And I just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, again, Chris, if you allow me to adjust those figures a little bit, we're actually talking about billions of dollars. Yeah, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars a year. Let's say, for example, there are some 6 million U.S. jobs that depend directly on trade with Mexico. Two key border states trade extensively with this country, where I'm speaking to you from. In California, nearly 700,000 jobs depend directly on the trade relationship with Mexico. And then, of course, in Texas, that's almost 500,000 jobs, 500,000 jobs inside the state of Texas alone. So every day we're talking about tens of millions of dollars daily. Okay, so there's a lot of money moving back and forth in trade and commerce. The question is, why are we not talking about it? Here's what I think it is. There just aren't enough people like you guys in major newsrooms across the United States. People just don't understand it. They just don't get it. That's what you hired them. No, I think that historically, the trade relationship, the mindset of editors in the United States, in those power centers of the media makers, which is mostly New York, Washington, Los Angeles, in those places, we're still not taking Mexico seriously. We still see it as a trouble. Younger brother over there, bit of a drug addict or whatever bad imagery is that we get, and not taking it seriously. I wish I could show you some of the places that have cropped up. I'm talking about businesses, restaurants, high-end luxury car sales, representative shops here in Mexico City that have cropped up in the last 10 years. It would blow your mind. This place looks like it could be a major European capital. Okay? And people still have the idea that it's a backward kind of developing world city that's dangerous. Actually, it's completely safe, and I think we just don't get that, and I think it all goes back to that, that reality that editors in the States are not turning south. They don't get the story. They don't get it.
Has there been any reaction in the United States? A lot of people have been reacting to the part where he stereotypes people coming to the border as racist. But in that comment, he also said that he wanted Mexico itself to pay for the border. I mean, has there been any reaction toward that specific comment? Has people in Mexico reacted to that?
For the creation of the border wall, right? Which I think is the way they came for it. Mexico would be paying for it, and one of his companies, of course, would benefit from it and actually build it, right? Taking the income and then produce that wall, whatever that is. There really hasn't been a lot said from official corners of power in this country. People along the border definitely kind of scoff at that idea. They think to themselves that how many U.S. administrations have talked about building something that would go way beyond the Great Wall of China to separate these nations. And in some parts of the border, it's quite fortified, as you guys know. But the United States has not achieved that complete border wall idea. And I think largely because thinking people in Washington know that that would be an error, would be a major blow against commerce. And they're not going to do that because of money. That's it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of political policy making has to do with economics, as you guys know.
One more question. What second step? People know like that he died. Christian, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry, your phone line is cutting out a bit. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I'm not getting your question. The phone line's cutting a bit. Can you repeat that?
Yes. I said about that there's further was different time, and that's why we need to go for it. Or people about that and all of myself.
I'm getting very little of your question. Sorry, the phone line's cutting a bit, but it sounds like are people reacting to these calls for enhanced border security? As you guys know, certain sectors of the Republican Party have been suggesting, for example, that terrorists could come in from Mexico and enter the United States. I should say that this is something that the Mexican government does not want to admit, but we have more U.S. agents on the ground in the United States than ever before. And they're from every major intelligence gathering agency in the United States government. So they're watching very, very carefully what takes place here, the movements that take place here, and the people who enter Mexico from other nations, whether it be by land or by sea or air. They're watching it very, very carefully and monitoring and working closely with the Mexican government on that. So you can rest assured that that's taking place on a constant basis. So I think that officially when you hear about the idea of terror coming from here, again, Mexican government officials on a very high-ranking level, including the Minister of Foreign Relations, has come out to say that that's just absolutely not true. It's unfounded. And beyond that, most Mexicans just don't, they think that that's partly what the United States is dealing with still all these years after the great tragedy of 9/11.
Right. And so, hi, Lou, can you?
Yeah.
Hello, yeah. Okay, we can hear you.
I don't know if you were from this San Francisco. Is saying it happened when I'm not was murdered, and he was deported 5 times, and I closed it. And this museum, because I saw a very big, and I didn't know if talking about that reaction.
Christian, again, my apologies. Your line is cutting. I can catch a bit of that. Are people reacting here to the death of a migrant in San Francisco and the treatment?
The suspect was deported 5 times. Usually the homicide is deported 5 times. So I guess the media is playing that out, as kind of like I guess below the belt that, see, this is an example of the kind of people that are, coming in through the border. Has there been any reaction to that story?
It really hasn't played much at all in Mexico. I think, people here understand that there are certain media organizations in the United States that will go for hide stories and they'll look for these extraordinary examples and try to make someone's point about how bad immigrants are for the United States. But most people who are policymakers, who are actually, creating the plans that are going to fortify relations between these two nations for decades to come, they know that that's not the case. So what we're starting to see, in fact, in the United States Embassy in Mexico City, across this country, is they're relaxing the regulations required for migrants to get a visa and go into the States. And so that's part of the strategy designed to basically decrease people's desire to want to try to go without that documentation. And so I think that these are things that have taken place quietly during the 1.5 administrations of President Barack Obama now at this stage. So I think that Mexicans didn't play. Whenever there's a death or something of that sort, you'll hear about that quite a bit. If a U.S. Border Patrol agent kills a Mexican migrant or Central American migrant, you'll hear quite a bit of that. So I would say that even editors on this end are sort of guilty of playing the hype game,
Yeah.
Because I think that sells papers or whatever it is you're trying to sell. And so that does take place as well. But we didn't get too much at all about that story. It did appear briefly on some internet sites, and I think some major dailies, sort of as smaller stories buried inside the front section, but not major play.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. We really appreciate your time. Our time is up, but we really appreciate you coming on to the show, and keep us posted with any updates, and we'll have you on soon.
You bet I will. I'm really glad to be with you guys. Take care.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, bye.
So we're having a little bit of technical difficulty here. Julio, we can't hear you. But our show is coming to an end.
Right?
Yeah, you cut it out.
Play it out.
Cut it out. Thank you for listening.